Welcome to another episode of Grace Under Pressure, where my guest today is Johannes Coloma-Flecker. And I'll tell you all about Johannes in just a moment. Grace, as you know, is a show that focuses on what it means to live and lead with grace. We focus on the caring, the connecting, and the commitment that we all feel toward one another. And for me, it's grace is generosity, respect, and compassion we demonstrate. And when you're a leader, you have to, it's especially in our challenging times, it requires that ability to act for the benefit of others and energize others around you. And my guest today, Johannes Coloma-Flecker, really embodies this. Let me tell you welcome, Johannes.
Welcome. Hi, John.
Let me tell you a little bit about Johannes. He's a leading voice for personal and professional development through creative and musical thinking. Johannes comes from a long line of Austrian musicians. He was born in Austria, and his entire family is in the music business. For a while, that wasn't going to be his choice. He went to pursue business studies and ended up with a PhD from the University of Graz in Austria. He is now, but the music called him, and he went to to Berklee Music School in Boston and studied music and music business and all kinds of stuff. Today, he runs Sound Leadership in New York. He creates transformational experiences for leaders and their teams to help them strengthen and develop their culture, levels of engagement, and team communication. And I've seen Johannes work firsthand, and he is exceptional. He's going to share some music with us today. So welcome, Johannes. It's a pleasure to have you on the show.
Thank you, John. Thank you so much.
Great. Johannes, we're all going through this crisis, and from your perspective in sound leadership, which is both the music and the creativity and leadership, of course, which you know very well because you've studied it as well as practiced it. So what are you hearing from people? What is worrying them right now?
What I hear a lot is actually like real deep questions. Who am I in this world? What do I want to do? Who do I want to be? Why am I doing what I'm doing? Because I think this year is such an extraordinary event for all of us. Everything has been upended. I mean, I can't travel anywhere, work from home basically all the time. I'm not the only one, of course. But these really deep questions, why am I doing what I'm doing? I hear this so much, basically every day. Because I think what it comes down to right now is we're working from home. So all these perks from office or fancy location or great time with colleagues, like leaving town, this all falls apart. This is not part of the work anymore. So basically we all sit in front of our computer all day long. And there's a really basic questions. Does this make me happy what I'm doing? And do I want to continue this? So
that's a great story. So your background in music, I told just a little bit about it. So you had a successful career, you were in academics and in business. What drew you back to music?
I think I never really left music in the first place. However, I realized that it's my calling and there's no way to escape it as much as I wanted to at one point or not wanted to. Everything I did there was basically always a music element. When I did my business PhD, I wrote about music and brands. When I did executive education, I always included a lot of music. And in my spare time, I pursued first online music degrees in songwriting. So my life was always filled with music. And it was just a matter of time for me to figure out a way and the possibility to make music like the core of what I'm doing.
That's great.
It was a gradual, process for me.
Right. Music is very much tied to our emotions. And how does it connect us? And if you have a sample of music you'd like to play, that would be good.
Sure. So I think it's just, we don't even need to do anything to tie music with emotion. It's just when we listen to a tune, when we sing one note in the shower, when we play one music note, it expresses emotion because we're so enormously glued and tied to music. For example, we all probably know when we first broke up with someone, when one of our family members passed away, we probably have a music tune exactly to that moment that we can tie to it. When something tragic happened, when something beautiful happened, when we got married, what was the music we played? And there's such a deep connection. I mean, for me, the Cole Porter song, "Let's Do It, Let's Fall in Love," will forever have a very sad meaning, because I listened to this tune, an amazing arrangement, on one night on Spotify. I listened to it a couple of times. I was so energized. Oh, I want to arrange it like that.
Yeah.
And a couple of hours later, I got the worst phone call of my life, that my father passed away that night. And this music is so tight together that
Right.
it always evokes this.
Yeah.
And I mean, we can either have the music can either be by itself that it evokes a strong emotion. We can call this, the intrinsic elements of
Right.
music, like a chord, a minor chord. Evoke something very deep and passionate in us. But I mean, who is to say why? Is it a given, or is it just because our culture is like that whenever we hear this in a movie, something tragic happens? Or it's more of a cultural element.
Well, I think that raises a very good point, Johannes. I think, yes, part of it is conditioning, certainly from our 100 years or more than 125 years of listening to music or movies, of course. But also, I think there's an emotional chord I mean, no pun intended. When we go major, which is more cheerful, minor is more less cheerful or sad in a way.
Mm-hmm.
So, there's an emotional response. So we're in crisis, as you talked about. So what's the role of music now? What do you bring to your clients when you talk about what it is you do? So
I think specifically, and more so now in this time of crisis, that we're all super detached of everything that is fun, of everything that is joy. Here in New York City, there's no concert, no Broadway show, no opera, no pub, no live band, no nothing. All my music friends, many of them left New York City. Those who are here to do online work.
Yeah.
So I think we have this longing to connect deeply with our emotions, and music is obviously a direct path to that. So I think especially in times of crisis, it's important for us to find an outlet where we can express ourselves in a different way than just in text, which is beautiful, but where we need more. And this helps us, as I mentioned before, to have such an intimate relationship to understanding our own story better. If I think about how do I feel today, which music would be part of that? What if I think of our team? How do we feel today? How does our culture look like? How innovative are we at the moment? What is our team, the mindset, the team spirit right now? Are we kind of down? Are we uplifted? And actually, I have an example for that where
please.
I can invite our listeners to think of that. So imagine your team story of today. Think of it, of your team, whatever it is. If it were a song title, which song title would it be? Think of it a couple of seconds. If you have nothing in mind, I'll give you a few examples. Listen to these songs and think whether these song titles make sense to your team right now. The Rolling Stones, You Can't Always Get What You Want. Or is it more Hearing It Through the Grapevine? Or do we need a bridge over troubled water right now? Despite everything, it's wonderful. Or are we energized?
I think we need some energy.
How can we create such an energy that no one is gonna rain in my parade?
Yeah.
Or
come fly with
a lighthearted feeling in our organization. How can we get this back? It's such heavy times. What can we do?
Okay.
How does our new product lead to success? Does our energy reflect this? Or is this our anthem for now? Or are we just counting the hours? Yes.
Sometimes.
So, examples, think of it. How is your team mindset, your team group, your team title today? Do you like it? What can you change? How should it be?
So when you play that for a group and they say, I'm kind of in a come fly with me mode, do you take it and go in that direction, or how does it work?
So I mean, this is basically so status quo. Where are we at the moment? What does reflects our mindset in our organization? What it does when I work with teams, just on such a simple exercise, it forces us to think, beyond our usual talk, and force us and invite us and encourage us to include our intellect and our heart, our intellect and our mind and our emotions in the question. And already opening this door allows us to have much deeper conversations. Why do we think our story sounds minor today? Why does it sound sentimental today? Where do we want to go? What would look like if our story sounds uplifting? How would this look like in our daily work, in our habits, in our meetings? What do we need to change? So it really invites us to have like this background music whenever I like start working in the morning. How does our story sound right now? Do I like it? What do I need to change?
Right. I've seen you work, Johannes, and you will take lyrics or words from the audience and turn it into song. Do you not? So and that captures the mood of the moment. Mm-hmm. So in a way, you are enabling the team to create its own music. Correct? So
absolutely,
correct.
Absolutely,
and the net. So when a teams that you work with, what do they come away with? What's the outcome for them?
Mm-hmm. So. That's a great question. And in those 5 years that I've done this more or less like as my main profession, there's such a variety. There are outcomes when we work, for example, on resilience. For example, a group of business owners, and we work on personal resilience and everything, all the challenges I need to overcome as a business owner. We create a song, like in small groups, some people individually, and the outcome of one of these songs is, for example, not my business resilience, but as a business owner, I neglected my family, and I haven't seen my daughter. I haven't seen my daughter and my son grow up. I've worked from business success for the last 20 years, but my children basically don't really know me. And this can lead in a positive way, even to tears when we perform, when our participants perform their stories together in this very sacred and protected mindset, in this protected atmosphere. What they get away from is really maybe one thing, this deep emotional connection that something is wrong and I want to amend, I want to change that in one simple specific way. I mean, for this business owner who wrote this story, it was kind of a and the realization, I need to spend more time with my family. For other examples, it's more leadership topics, but this is one that comes to mind.
Right. And I saw an example that you did was it with graduate students in Germany, or something that you had created with a group of graduate students for something. Do I have my stories mixed up? So
there were many. There were in Germany or in the United States. Yes, so you can pick a lot in Europe, obviously, and then in the US. There is one that I was. A project that I was doing with graduate students who were on an entrepreneurial summer boot camp, and they developed their prototypes. And what our purpose was, by thinking like musicians, by acting like musicians, by having this music mindset, is thinking their prototypes, their startup ideas, their products as a song. Can you compress your startup idea once you just develop your plan in a 3-minute song with lyrics that make sense, with lyrics that are memorable, that have a clear perspective from the client. What is their problem? What do they want to solve? How can I help them? What are the challenges? What do we actually do? So this helps the participants actually to prepare their pitch that they have for investors, to really get clear, what is our startup about if it were a song? So this just opens a different avenue of thinking.
That's good. It's so often we are trapped in our linear thinking. We're going from A to B to C, which is what business is all about. I mean, ultimately, once we have our idea, it's execution. I think what you're talking about, when our creative juices are going, we're allowed to think laterally or broadly, upside down, whatever. And music taps into something that is opens up new horizons, does it not? I mean,
oh, of course. I mean, like 90% of the time when we start a project, when we do a workshop for a conference or a longer project, it's participants, the clients say, oh, I can't do this. That's not for me. I'm not musical. Might work for others, not for me. And this is the first hurdle we need to overcome. This, I don't know why this is such a mantra, that I'm not creative. We all are creative, and this creativity can be steered and guided to help us even be more productive in our work as leaders and be better leaders, at least a little bit. So overcoming this is the first topic. And then it's really about the process. So what you said, like how can we use this music mindsets? It's all about allowing myself to creating something completely new in a way that I'm not super familiar with, and seeing where this journey takes me. And there's always a completely different outcome than what I expected, especially if I work with my team members on creating, recreating, expressing our story in the musical way, if it's a way that we have not expressed before. So it's really the process.
I like the way you express that, because so often the resistance is, oh, I can't do that. And because I've seen you work with groups and you turn that completely around. But that's such a good exercise, because so often I think we censor ourselves, or I could never do that, or but working with a professional such as yourself, you open those windows, which they may not stay open for music per se, but they give people confidence. Would you not say that? So.
Oh, absolutely. And this is like the common feedback, like all the time. At the end of such a session, I never knew I could do this. I never thought, now I know I can finish a song. It might not be the best in the world, but I can express my story and I love it. And I will remember this next year if I forget everything else that we just said, but I remember the tune and the title and the melody and how it made me feel, how it made me feel. And that is what everyone can do and can achieve.
That's great. Well, I want to share with the audience an example of what you did. And you took excuse me. I want to. You took some words of mine. I can't even call them lyrics, and you turned them into a song. And I want to play that for the group right now. So let me see if I can.
Times are tough, people want hope, and why not? Might be the only thing they've got. How do leaders respond to this need for hope? Times are challenging, and you don't have the answer. Well, I think the best thing is yes, you deliver. Yes, you deliver. You deliver. You deliver. You deliver. With a sense of realism, you turn the equation back on itself. I have hope in us, I have faith in us, and I believe together we survive. I believe we will make things work. Frame it in a realistic way. We all want hope, me and you. The challenge is to make it true. And you will never
That's such a good song. Thank you. I love that. And I think, when did you write that? Was it April or some?
I think it was end of May or like end of May something.
Yeah.
It wasn't
And
really
it's
enough, but I was
so,
able to stand on the rooftop.
yeah. And I love that because it reminds it so captured the moment that we were all feeling lost. And, you took this idea of hope and turned it into um, an anthem of kind that it's uplifting. And I know that you do this for groups. And the other thing that it does, Johannes, and that's why your work is so special, it's uplifting. Whatever they write. And I think you give people the confidence to go forward. And that's what I like about your stuff. So thank you. It makes us more feel human, right? So
Yes, I think one of the secrets of music, why we connect so much, we are allowed to say things that it's difficult to say in words. But when we sing it, we have more freedom. We have more leeway and people are more forgiving. Imagine, I mean, if I stand somewhere and tell someone an uncomfortable truth that leads to distance, and that someone might build a wall. But if I pack it in music and make it sound beautiful, and even if the lyrics are are sad, or if they have a negative message, I can say more than I would if I would talk about it. I can say, oh, I can sing, I love you so much, and people would not slap me in the face. But if I say it, it's more risky sometimes.
yeah,
But people
that's
open
good.
up when they sing. And we had examples from like onboarding sessions with big consulting firms, and we had the new cohort of consultants join with the HR, and the new cohort wrote songs about what did not go well in their first 2 weeks in that consulting firm, and HR was sitting there and clapping along and saying, yes, we get the message, we get the message.
Well, that's great. What you've just done there in that example, and credit that consulting firm for taking the time to bring the cohort together and to actually listen to them. You gave them the language to express themselves. Did you not?
Yeah, so yeah, we find the language. And one more thing is that makes the process, so I obviously use a lot the process of songwriting, which makes it different, is that we use a lot of metaphors and different ways of talking about things. So we never talk about profit margin or EBIT or whatever, investors, or like difficult market situations. We write it, we talk about it in ways that engage us, where I could think of a metaphor. If I get up this morning and I start working with my team, and to start actually a song, for example, I'm not going to talk about what's happening, but I talk about, if our story as a team this morning, if it would smell, how would it smell? Would it smell like a fresh cappuccino, the first thing I drink when I get up in the morning? It's fresh and it invigorates me, it gives me the energy. Or does it smell like an old flowers in the water that has been stale, and the water has not been changed, and it's old and it's almost dying? So using our whole senses, how does our story smell? How does it taste? Would it be like a fresh, crispy dark bread, or would it just an old banana that I'm gonna eat? How does it taste? So all these metaphors actually really make our fantasy and our imagination soar, but also bring it back to earth because we want to talk about our story. So it just has the best of both worlds.
No, and that's so important. I mean, I've said this before, but you're enabling people to, quote, get out of themselves, get out of their mundane, get out of a linear thinking pattern, which is, there's nothing wrong with it, but it's great to break it up a little bit because you're exposing them to something different and unlocking their creativity that they felt they never had before. And then they take that creativity and apply it to their situation.
Yeah, absolutely. And what I've experienced a lot is that we lose when we allow this process, we lose a little our fear of expressing ourselves. And I think back of when I wrote my first song. I mean, no one knew that I wrote songs because I was so afraid that it would be horrible and people would hate it and everyone would ridicule me. Until this moment when I thought, okay, you know what? Upload it on YouTube. It's not the best song in the world, but it was the best that I was able to do at that moment. And I was very proud of it. And we move on and we get better and better. Just this mentality of continuously creating something new and expressing ourselves. Only because of that, we can innovate, we can invent new things. Some products might not be the best in the world, but in the end, through continuously repeating this, we create something of beauty. And I've an example actually for that.
Yeah.
In the world of music, but from one of the greats, from Brahms. He was terrified of publishing new work. He wrote forever and ever on his compositions, and he was meticulous, painstaking details, and he threw away much of it. And this is, for example, I shown a brief example from his first piano concerto. He wrote for it for so long, but he was terrified of having it performed. This is what it turned out. When it was performed, it was not a big success. And Brahms stopped writing for years, for 10 years. So he felt actually, and I mean, he's one of the greatest composers, and he was terrified of sharing work and not having success. And he stopped writing. And so much music we lost because he didn't use all of his life for it until he overcame this and continued. So even if things are not considered successful at that specific moment, you should not stop doing it, because today this piano concerto is one of the most popular ever. So maybe you're ahead of your time. Maybe, yeah, just continue doing what you're doing.
Oh, that's great. And I think you have a special affinity for Brahms, because aren't you both from the same hometown or same region?
So Brahms is originally from Germany, but when he moved to Vienna, he often spent his summer vacation in the Alps and in the region, like in my hometown, basically next to my hometown. So there's the first music school I went to was the Johannes Brahms Music School, and everything is Brahms there, and Brahms Way, and Brahms Museum, and Brahms Concert. So I have a special affinity to it. And his fourth symphony is also called Zuschlager Symphony, and that's where I'm from.
That's great. So we're coming to the end of our program, and I always ask our guests to share a story of grace. And you have a very special one that you're actually going to demonstrate and play for us. So please tell us about it.
Sure. So grace, so from how you beautifully described it, it's all about, the generosity, taking action, having compassion for others, doing it with a great energy and with respect, and creating something that might resonate with someone to help each other, lift each other up. And yesterday actually was the International Day of World Peace. And I was invited to create a song to, express my side of it from my homeland, Austria. And I wrote it in German. And the song is about using the time we have right now. Because right now is the only time we have. And that we really use each hour, each minute. And I would like to sing a part of it.
Please.
Nimmst du dir Zeit zu schlummern, zu schlafen oder zu leben, zu neiden, zu sammeln, zu raffen oder zu geben, dich zu sorgen? Oder tanzt du mit mir im Mondschein? Wer ich bin ich bereit zu leben, jeden Moment wie die Unendlichkeit. Denn dieser Tag, diese eine Stunde, diese eine Minute ist die einzige Zeit, die es gibt. Denn dieser Tag, diese eine Stunde, diese eine Minute ist die einzige Zeit, die zählt. Nichts muss sein, kein Ärger, die traurigen Falten der Sorgen, kein Klagen, kein Runzeln der Stirn, kein Leben im Morgen, kein Nehmen, kein Horten. Ich hab keine Angst, mich dir voll und ganz zu geben. Wer ich bin ich bereit zu leben, jeden Moment wie die Unendlichkeit. Denn dieser Tag, diese eine Stunde, diese eine Minute ist die einzige Zeit, die es gibt. Denn dieser Tag, diese eine Stunde, diese eine Minute ist die einzige Zeit, die zählt.
Thank you, Johannes. That was beautiful and very full of grace. So it's been a wonderful show. Thank you. And that's it for now. We'll close out. Till next time.
Thank you.